What's up everybody, it's Joe here with Joseph Blake Photography, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the gigantic firmware update that Sony has released for their alpha cameras. Okay, before we get into the specifics about the update and some of the other stuff that's going on with it, real quick, I'm Joe. This is my channel, Joseph Blake Photography. And on this channel, we talk about gear. We talk about everything that is involved in the creation process, from the equipment to the techniques to the software to the market in general. If that's something that you're into, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, go ahead and hit the bell so that you're notified when I post new videos, and go ahead and hit the like button if this is the kind of thing that you're into. Also, you can find me over on Instagram and all over the interwebs in general. Okay, let's get into the info about this absolutely monumental firmware update from Sony. Before we get into the specifics of the update though, I do want to mention, and we're going to talk about this at the end, that the update that I'm going to describe here has been paused. Sony has pulled it, but more on that in the second half. Let's go through the actual update, kind of what we're expecting and what people are seeing as they update their cameras. So this update has a huge number of kind of just quality of life improvements for shooters. And as I go through some of these updates, just know that not every single feature is coming to every single camera. So if you have an A1, if you have an A9, if you have an A7, there are going to be different features that are going to come to each camera. And so maybe I'll find a grid, but I want to go through them assuming that you have an A1 or an A9, and most of these features are going to be coming to your camera if you decide to put this update on there. And we'll talk about that again in the second half of the video. So number one, playback and media management on your camera. So number one is the ability to continuously play back videos. So you can play a video and then play right back to the next video and the next video and the next video. That's really nice because if you've got a sequence of videos or sequence of shots and you just kind of want to watch them through all the way, you have the ability to do that. That's really nice because then you don't have to back up into the menu and try to find the next image. It's just right there. It just keeps playing from image to image to image, or from video to video to video, which is really nice. And that'll continue playing from card slot to card slot. So if you've got a set of images or videos on one card slot, it'll just move over to the next one. But sometimes when you're doing playback, you want to be able to, you don't want to look at everything. You want to filter out certain things. And so now you have the ability in the menu to filter out the media components that you want to not see. Maybe you've got things in a specific folder, or you got things that were shot on a certain date and they're all on one card, or on your two cards, and you only want to play back certain things. You can filter it by that criteria. Speaking of folders, previously there was a limit of 4,000 items that could be recorded to one folder. That limit has now been increased to 9,999. Honestly, here, just a quick tip. If you're looking at lots of clips and videos, or you have more than 4,000 clips in one folder and you're filtering them by multiple, take the card out, copy it, get it off that card. Get it somewhere where you can store it and back it up, and then get it backed up to the cloud. You leave things on cards for days on end, and that's scary, especially if you've got that many items. So just FYI, try to do that as much as you can. Back up your stuff. Don't leave things on cards forever. Don't be me. Also, while shooting, you'll have the ability to install multiple IPTC presets. If you don't know what IPTC presets are, or IPTC in general, this is like the metadata that you store with your image. And so maybe you are wanting to copyright, or maybe you've been hired by someone and your contract requires that those images are owned by and copywritten by the company or the holder, or maybe there's some other thing that you want to make sure that is burned into that image. You have the ability to switch. So if you have maybe multiple clients that you're working for, or you have multiple types of shoots that you do where the IPTC function might be different for one or the other, you can switch those. You can have up to 20 presets. Now, moving away from kind of the playback and media management side of things, if you move over to the actual shooting side, there are some great updates in this firmware to the side of actually shooting. Number one is now you have full DCI 24.00p. So you'll have two different options in the menus, one for 24p, one for 24.00p, which is your full DCI 24 frame per second. Also now in the remote camera tool, there's an update to the focus screen, so you can actually see the focus, so you can see where your focus points are. And now Sony is offering enhanced image stabilization in conjunction with the lenses. So now the sensor and the lens, the body and the lens, are going to work together to improve overall image stabilization. This feels very similar to what Canon cameras are doing with their IBIS system, to go from having 5 stops of IBIS in the camera to up to 8 stops when combined with specific lenses that have built-in image stabilization. Okay, now, still in the recording function, but if you're shooting with multiple cameras, right? So if you're on a multi-cam set, you now have the ability to sync quite a bit between those cameras. So number one, you have the ability to sync time code, which is super cool. You have the ability to sync release, so you can actually have shutter release between different cameras. Did I mention that they have breathing compensation in here? I think I forgot that in the recording section. They have breathing compensation. So focus breathing has a compensation component in it. It will match up to the lens. It knows what those characteristics are, and it will adjust for it automatically in camera. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot, but that's like half of it. So in addition, it now improves the ability, or adds the ability, for you to be able to do Cloud Connect and backup, and change and improve the way that you can communicate with your computer and with your network to be able to get images off. So one is called Cloud Connect, or Cloud Upload Camera Connect. This is very similar to Canon.camera, again, where you'll be able to directly from the camera with Wi-Fi, be able to upload those images directly to their cloud service, and then be able to sync those back down to your computer. Now, I love these types of technologies. I think that's really, really great, but I'll be real honest. I find that when you're shooting gigabytes of stills and video, that really isn't the best solution, even if you have phenomenal internet, because those files are going to go up into the cloud and they're going to have to come back down, which is why FTP is really a better solution. I wish there was a way to do this internally, meaning that you could do it inside your own network wirelessly. But oh wait, they did that in this update. So also you have the ability to use the kind of secure WAN and LAN-based wireless transfer, using secure FTP to upload it directly inside your own network. So you should be able to get super fast speeds. It also added USB streaming in addition to the Cloud Connect and SFTP. They've updated and improved the FTP function as well to allow you to kind of manipulate which images you want to send using the Protect feature. And now there are more apps available to control and manage your camera wirelessly. Okay, so that's what they told us about in this update. That's what Sony announced. There's actually a couple things that aren't announced but are in this update. So one is AF Assist and the ability to change your focus point manually by tapping, right? So if you're in the middle of a shot and you want to boom, 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 tap and tap back and forth, you can do that even if you've got your focus set. It's an override. If you're in video mode and you go to record, you have an updated video display, which is much improved. Also not on the announcement. And now, finally, after version 2, you'll be able to do future firmware updates using an SD card. So you won't have to actually connect the camera. Some things that are missing: you still will not have animal eye AF on some cameras because it requires a specific chip, or at least that's how they've programmed it. If your camera doesn't have that chip, like if you have the A7C, you will not be able to use animal eye AF. Focus breathing is there, but it doesn't work in 8K on the A1, obviously because that's going to be kind of shifting in and out of the frame. Well, if you're shooting in 8K, you're pretty much using the entire sensor, so there's not really a whole lot of space for them to move around there. You cannot upload your own LUTs when you're in log mode. Focus bracketing, still not an option on the A1. No variable shutter on the A7S III. The R6 Mark II has that feature. Sometimes I remember to use it so that these lights don't look all, but not on the A7S III, something that people have been asking for. Also, no cinematic D-squeeze on the A7S III. Some users are reporting that third-party battery percentages have disappeared, so you can't tell what your battery range is. And no pre-capture on the A1. So that's what they announced, that's what's in there, and that's what they didn't announce that's in there, and that's what isn't in there. I think we've covered it. But wait, there's more. As of today, March 29th, Sony has suspended the update because, to be quite honest, a whole bunch of people are experiencing a lot of weirdness. So there are reports from users of various issues, the top one being that they're just not able to connect to their cameras. basically that Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, no worky anymore. That has been the common issue. And then some other people have just reported some other weird stuff that I think is pretty, I don't know if it's specific to their camera, if it's specific to this firmware update, but the number one thing that we've seen is this network connectivity issue, which was big enough for Sony basically to just pull the whole update, which makes sense considering the fact that really half of it is related to these network connectivity features and the cloud connection, the camera direct connect feature that's coming. So that kind of sucks. But even when they do, because they'll get these bugs fixed and there'll be a 2.01 version that'll come out soon and you'll be able to get that one on there. So don't put this in on your camera if that camera is a production device. You shouldn't put a 0.0 firmware on a production piece of equipment. Anyway, again, just words of wisdom here. But the one other thing to note is that when you do put it on there, you will have to completely reset it up. So it effectively wipes your whole camera and you can't back it up. You have to start from fresh. So just remember all your settings if you can, and just know that you're probably going to need to spend a considerable amount of time getting in there and getting that stuff redone, which sucks, but that's progress, right? Now, real quick, one other thing that's in this update that I thought was interesting, but not ground shattering, is their authenticity component. Sony is adding effectively what is like a security certificate, similar to like what you find on a web page. So if you go to a web page and it doesn't have a good security certificate, your browser is going to be like, whoa, this isn't a good place to go. And that is how the browser knows that that site is safe. Sony is adding a certificate style component to their images as kind of like a stamp of authenticity to show, hey, this is real. This image was captured with a camera and this is not generated by AI. I think we're going to see more initiatives like this. Kind of cool, kind of interesting. And I definitely want to do more deep dive into this technology and kind of see how it works. But super interesting to me as someone who both enjoys playing with AI, but also sees the potential to have some real damage done long-term as the images and other media and text and spoken word and all these things get better and better. And honestly, they're able to fool people more and more and take away the ability for creators to make a living by creating original content, if that original content can just be generated by an AI by kind of scraping everybody else's original content. I don't know. I'm not the person to come down on one side or another on that, but I'm glad to see that Sony is coming out with something. It's a step in the right direction. We'll see how these kinds of initiatives happen moving forward. Anyway, that's it for the update from Sony. Again, tons and tons of updates, depending on the camera that you have. Some cameras getting more than others. Also, tons of updates that weren't included in this firmware announcement. Things that people still want that weren't in here. And also don't put it on your camera because it might break it. Thanks for watching. If this is the kind of thing that you're into, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.